are three words I can use to describe the Kawhi and Paul George era in LA since they've been there. Disappointing, underwhelming, and load management. Those are three big words that we can use to describe this era in LA. I thought that after last night, after the Clippers were eliminated in only 5 games to the Phoenix Suns in their first round matchup, I thought it was time to talk about the future of this LA Clipper team and what they have done so far. So before we get into it, make sure y'all drop a like, subscribe, and I want to know what y'all think about this LA Clipper era. What word would you use to describe it? Now, to fully understand what this Clipper team has gone through and what they've been doing for these years, we got to go all the way back to a summer in 2019 to really get the full story.
Stephen A. Smith now. Steve, what was your reaction when you heard about not only Kawhi Leonard heading to the Clippers, but also the trade involving Paul George?
Well, stunned to say the least. The Paul George part is what's stunning. We all knew that in terms of Kawhi Leonard and where he might end up. We all knew it was going to be the Clippers, the Lakers, or the Toronto Raptors. And for the last week or two, we've been hearing the Lakers. And then the Clippers kept saying to people like myself and others, excuse me, that ain't going to happen. I had one Clipper tell me, there's no way in hell he's going to the Lakers. He's going to choose us, or he's going to stay in Toronto. So when you heard that Kawhi Leonard was going to end up a Clipper, that wasn't too surprising when you consider the fact that you have the richest owner in sports. You have one of the greatest executives in the history, if not the greatest executive in the history of the sport, in Jerry West, who obviously is the right-hand man of Steve Ballmer. And you have a Hall of Fame caliber coach in Doc Rivers, who, no disrespect to anybody else, but clearly is an upgrade from Frank Vogel. So
it's safe to say that not a lot of people expected these two to end up in LA, especially the LA Clippers with each other. A lot of people suspected that Kawhi was going to sign with the LA Lakers or stay in Toronto, but nope, he ends up becoming a Clipper, and they end up trading for Paul George. Now, this signing was a lot of mind-boggling. To the Stephen A. clip that I just played, he was very stunned by it. Yes, it was very surprising, and they also had a great head coach and Hall of Famer head coach, as Stephen A. said, in Doc Rivers. Now, Kawhi signed a 3-year deal worth $103 million for the Clippers in 2019, but in the 2021 season, he declined a player option and he decided to sign a 4-year, $176 million contract with the franchise. So basically adding an extension for Kawhi Leonard. That's why he's here now currently. But for Paul George, it was a different story. He had to get traded here. The Clippers ended up getting Paul George, but the Clippers had to ship a lot of stuff to OKC. One such being as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Dalino Gallinari, I probably butchered that name so wrong, I apologize. A Miami Heat 2021 unprotected first round draft pick. The Clippers first round draft pick. Another Miami Heat 2023 first round draft pick. A pick swap with the Clippers. A 2024 first round pick. A swap in 2025 and a 26 draft pick. So they pretty much had to send all their first round draft picks and do a whole bunch of pick swaps with OKC in order to get Paul George. Now this is really huge, because think about it, the names I just said, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But looking in hindsight, I guess it was worth it, because going into that season, the Clippers end up finishing with a 49-23 record, second best in the Western Conference. They end up, having the 4th best offense in the league. Honestly, the Clippers are actually looking nice. Actually, their championship odds at preseason was a plus 425. Actually, having super nice odds for them to go win the championship. But here's the thing where it all started to go wrong, I would say. Of course, we know, I'm not going to say the word, but we all know what happened to the NBA. It got shut down because of a certain thing. Unfortunately, you all should know what it is. They end up winning their last game before that happens versus a very injured Golden State team. We all know what happened to that team that year. So everybody, goes away for a couple of months. And then the NBA gets rebooted. And this is where the LA Clippers problems really started coming in. So towards the end of the regular season, in the bubble, they end up going 8-4, which isn't that bad of a record, I would say, for a team that everyone's been going through. But they come off the bubble with an 8-4 record going into the playoffs. And this is where stuff starts getting weird. They end up playing the Dallas Mavericks in the first round. This is where Luka Doncic really, a lot of eyes were on Luka this series. Guess what? He took that Clippers team to 6 games, which surprised a lot of people. Like, wow, Luka Doncic was balling. And then they played the Denver Nuggets. This is where stuff starts going wrong. One thing is, there's a man called Paul George that starts playing not very well. There was huge names come out there. Playoff P, Pandemic P, tons of nicknames, just all around trashing Paul George because he wasn't playing well. There was reports coming out, I think, that Paul George didn't like the bubble and he was like dealing through some stuff. So I can honestly kind of get that. But this Denver Nuggets series, they go up 3-1 to the Denver Nuggets in this bubble. And this is where stuff starts going wrong. Up 3-1 to the Nuggets. They end up losing Game 5, end up losing Game 6, and pretty much getting destroyed in Game 7. Dropping all these games and going all the way out of the NBA playoffs because they blew a 3-1 lead. They could have played the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, but they ended up losing, and now they're kind of back at rock bottom, I'd say, at this point after blowing a 3-1 lead. The Clippers the next year honestly don't do that bad. I mean, they kind of fell off a little bit in the standings, but record-wise, they didn't do that bad. They do end up firing Doc Rivers in the offseason, which after blowing a 3-1 lead, I'd probably fire my coach too. But as a record, they end up finishing 47-25, fourth in the Western Conference, which in my opinion isn't bad because the teams that finished ahead of them were kind of like powerhouses currently at that time. So honestly, it wasn't looking that bad for the Clippers. First round, they end up having to play the Dallas Mavericks once again after they literally just played them in the first round. But this time, the Clippers still end up getting the win within 7 games. So, the Clippers get past the Mavericks in the first round. It's like, hey, we won in 7, we didn't do nothing dumb. Like, hey, good for us. Here's the thing. They got their new head coach, Tyronn Lue, and they're low-key looking nice until the Utah series comes up next. And one of these games in the Utah series, a huge injury comes in for them. Kawhi Leonard ends up, well, I think that first they said it was like a sprain, and then they basically tried to downgrade it, and then it was basically he tore his ACL. Like, he had a severe knee injury and he couldn't play basketball. This was huge for them because at first they were down 0-2, but apparently they won in 6, so that's kind of crazy. Paul George at this point, instead of being playoff P, he turned the Jets on. This man came out here balling out, won the series against Utah. The next series, this man versus the Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals put the team on his back. I mean, oh my gosh, he brought them. He did bring him to 6, which that last game, I'm not gonna lie. Well, not the last game, but I think the game of the Valley Oop happened the second game. That was very, very close, and I definitely think they could have won that game if it wasn't for the Valley Oop happening. But it was a very close series. PG put the team on his back. He tried everything he can do without Kawhi. But now the Clippers are looking at, wow, 2 seasons we had the championship aspirations and our star player is hurt. This isn't looking pretty good. So now we move on to year 3. And this is where stuff really, really starts going downhill. So now, a lot of the big question is for the Clippers, is Kawhi going to play this year? Is Kawhi going to play this year? That was like the big question for the Clippers. And I'm going to let you know now, Kawhi Leonard ends up not playing any of these games this year. The Clippers fall all the way down to the 9th seed, 42-40 in this Western Conference. Yes, all the way down to the 9th seed, which they did make the play-in, and they did beat the Spurs in the play-in, but pretty much this whole season was just trying to get wins, I guess, and Paul George having to be Paul George as that number 1 option. So, they beat the Spurs in the play-in game. They got a second play-in game versus the New Orleans Pelicans, and a day before the game's supposed to happen, Paul George gets sick, and due to all the restrictions that are going on at that time, he could not play in that game. So, Clippers end up losing to the Pelicans. The Pelicans go play the 1-seeded Suns. So now, that is year 3 of the Kawhi and Paul George era. So, as you can tell, Kawhi's now been hurt for a whole year. And there's been some other games before where they've been like, oh, Kawhi PG out? Like, why are they out? So this year, going into year 4, this is where the questions are really going to start getting asked. So the 4th year we go into it, Clippers end up being the 5 seed this year. And I'm not going to lie, Kawhi does play this year, but there's a certain word called load management that gets thrown around a lot this season. Kawhi is out for a ton of games, just out in and out for like knee soreness or just something like that, something with like soreness tacked on it saying, and he doesn't play, like some little injuries, or that's what they call it, and he just doesn't play. Kind of things happen to Paul George too, just all throughout the season. Load management. Everybody on Twitter is going crazy because of this dang load management, and that's why the NBA had to kind of make a rule so you can't make all NBA teams or win awards because of this load management stuff, to hopefully get players out of it. So Russell Westbrook ends up getting released from the Lakers, and the Clippers end up signing him. That was probably that was an amazing signing for the Clippers. They definitely needed to get a point guard like him up in there. And first few games it looked bad, and then it was actually, you know what, it was actually working. But then towards the end of the season, Paul George ends up getting hurt, sprains his knee. He's out. And it's getting toward that playoff time, so that ends up being a problem. So, yes. So, basically, it's Kawhi and Russell Westbrook versus the world. Because now they're like, PG might be able to play if they make the second round. But it's not likely that he's going to play in the first round. So, you get into game. They end up playing the Phoenix Suns. This is going to be everybody thinks this is going to be a great matchup, we think. Game 1, Game 2, Kawhi ends up balling out. Just beautifulness by Kawhi. And then we find out that Kawhi like sprained his knee. It said it was enough to keep him out, but it wasn't like a huge injury. So it's like, okay, and the people are even saying, oh, it's just day to day. But guess what? Reports came out today that his meniscus was actually torn. So actually, it was a severe injury that he couldn't play through. So guess what? Russell Westbrook, man, he tries his best, balls out, drops I think almost 40 in one game. But the Clippers end up losing the series in only 5 games. So that is year 4 with this duo. And I'm not going to lie, looking at it, it's not looking pretty good. Here's my take on if the era is over or not. I don't think the era is necessarily over, because if you look at this Clipper team, there's nothing they can really do. I mean, they don't have any really draft picks for the future. They traded all of them away for Paul George. And they're also getting a new stadium next year, so a lot of people are thinking, well, they're not going to trade the whole team. They gotta sell tickets to this new stadium, but that would make sense. But otherwise, the real question is, I don't think the Clippers would do this. I think they just got to keep what they have, maybe re-sign Russell Westbrook because he's an unrestricted free agent. I do not think that they're going to restart just yet. Maybe if this year goes wrong, I can see them resetting. But I think one huge question is Kawhi Leonard's health. I know PG he's been hurt sometimes, I'm not going to lie. But I feel like he's better than how Kawhi's been. Torn ACL, load management, now the torn meniscus. This is the huge thing. Stephen A came out and said Kawhi should retire. A lot of people on Twitter are saying maybe Kawhi Leonard should just retire from the game of basketball. I mean, I don't blame him. He can't stay healthy. He's basically, I don't want to say like robbing the Clippers organization, but like, let's be honest. If he's not going to be able to play through these games and keeps getting hurt, why is he still playing? He should retire. So I see Stephen A's point of view on that, because it's like, trying to give them hope and stuff. They can have championship aspirations, but if he's just going to keep being hurt, it's a problem. So I think the huge question is, what is Kawhi Leonard going to do this off season? That is the huge question in my opinion. So let me know what y'all think. Is the LA Clippers, Kawhi and Paul George era over? And let me know what changes they need to make if it's not over. And let me know if it is over, what are they going to do? So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the video. I appreciate if y'all watch it. Please like, subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Watch these 2 videos I made right here. Amazing content by me, in my opinion. Hope all y'all have a nice day, and I'll see y'all in the next one.